Hi, I'm Dean Sage,
And I'm Jack Curvin,
and this is Show Me Your Deck,
a podcast where we explore the intersections of oracles and chakras.
using our original decks to create new insights. Well, we're back again.
Here we are.
We should probably develop something to talk about at the top of the show so that we don't just meander and ramble about things, but I'm excited. Episode number 3
Or no,
here.
they'll get over it.
Yes. Episode 3. We are getting into a stride, I think. So
Yes.
why don't we just go ahead and get started with our intersections of chakras? Why don't you roll your dice and let's figure out where we're starting.
The first die will let me know which deck to use. Deck number 1 will be the projections.
Okay.
And now for the number from the deck.
It's gonna be 1 through 49.
38.
38. Ooh, we're in the upper chakra.
38. So let's grab this out of here right quick. Oh, yes. Very nice.
So if you're unfamiliar, Jack's decks, he has 49 intersections. So that's each chakra intersecting with each other chakra in the deck. And he has 4 of those. And this is our projection deck. What makes the projection deck the projection deck?
In the book, these grow out of the source material comes from the book. The book contains haiku, it contains professions, it contains prose, it contains the literal intersections themselves. The projections are not in the book. This is the one deck where it's new material. These are suggestions for taking the ideas from the book and actually performing them in real life.
So these are actions to be taken.
These are actions, suggested actions, yes, to actually manifest the concepts from the book.
So number 38, that's got to be what, 6 and 7 chakras?
Yep, that's number 6. That's blue, ajna, water, third eye. And it is being touched by the base chakra, root chakra, red, Muladhara. So this is water touching earth, I see touching I am. And that is essentially looking at the ways in which the way you understand and see the world, the knowledge that you have, the information you take in, and how that is affected by who you are as a person.
Your groundedness, your root.
Yeah, and your sense of identity. So that is particularly important in times like our own, where your sense of identity and your sense of stability can create a bias about what kind of information you're even willing to hear in the first place.
So what's our projection then?
So the projection is keep your sponge wet. Take a stained glass class, study a new language, play games of strategy. In other words, keep learning. Mm-hmm. Be careful about presuming to know something just because of your own personal experiences, and be particularly careful. This is a reminder to be careful to remember that there's a whole wealth of information out there that can help keep you young in your brain. Literally, it keeps your brain wet. It keeps your brain soft. So there are multiple potential reminders here about the ways in which we learn based upon who we are.
Now I want to talk about something real quick, because your chakra elementals are different than the traditional chakra elementals. So you've got water very, very high in the chakra system. What about the third eye made you feel like water in this case?
So first and foremost, it's blue, but also perspective, knowledge, all of this is fluid and can take so many forms and be used in so many ways. And part of what's interesting with water is that we can know it in 3 physical states. And I was thinking in terms of the way we can shape what we know to fit any container we need it to. So this literal fluidity of knowledge in the brain and point of view is so fluid from person to person and from day to day within ourselves that it just screamed water for me.
Interesting. Yeah, water for me is down low. It's the sacral chakra. It's the second chakra, which is more traditional place for it to be So it's interesting. I like that idea of fluidity. I think with the third eye, especially being able to kind of shape the visions, shape the understanding. Everything is kind of coming in a very high level. Some people might say a higher frequency. So sort of trying to ground it like this card is talking about. You could do that in a lot of different ways, and maybe not all of them are going to be beneficial to you.
Right. Yeah. And you have to be careful about the way in which you allow your sense of self to be too much of a filter for what you're learning. So you don't actually accidentally end up with a separate set of facts.
Well, you said keep your sponge wet, but there's also a sponge that is too wet to where it can't take anything else in. It's at its saturation point. So
totally saturated.
Staying wet.
Saturated with something worth being wet of. It's like you've got all this wetness. Is it even worth having by the time it sops out like that? But yeah, the reminder here is to keep learning.
I like that. Keep learning. Okay, so we've got sort of our message for the day is to keep learning. This is a very intellectual kind of bent, I feel. We've got the root chakras there. So there is that sort of groundedness, but I almost feel like we're, radio hosts right now on a NPR podcast. That's kind of the vibe that I'm feeling. So let's do one more of your decks to get started. And I think we'll do probably 2 of my deck to complement it.
All right, hold on. Jumping all the way over to deck number 4. That's the most abstract of my decks. That's the intersection deck. And we'll be using card number 4. So way down at the bottom.
Well, and so it's going to have the root chakra, which we had from our global perspective.
Actually, I read that wrong. The 4th deck is the haiku deck.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So this is coming back around to, the book being the source of it. This is taking the poetry from the book in isolation to consider it by itself without all the other information that accompanies it in the book. So my mistake. So this is number 4 out of the haiku deck.
That's all right. I messed up which card was my own card in the first show. So we've got enough creator
here we go.
Jumbling happening.
Well, this is the root chakra, red, earth, I am, and how it intersects with green, wood, I love, anahata. So red and green together, earth and wood together. And to your point, most systems don't use wood at all. So we can talk about that in just a second. But the haiku for this intersection of earth and wood is, claim your hewn temple, hand-carved, blessed living marble, call my heart your home.
Okay. Let's read that one more time just because haiku are dense. So let's hear it one more time.
Claim your hewn temple, hand-carved, blessed living marble, call my heart your home.
All right. The words that kind of resonated with me right there was hewn. That idea of the carving of the creation, but the very physical creation, like very tactile.
And out of the living rock, usually when something is hewn, you're trying to reveal something.
Mm-hmm. Starting with the unformed shape and moving towards the form beneath it. And as we know, there's certain sculptures that are just breathtakingly immaculate in what they can convey from literal stone. It's just stone, but it you can make a dress appear translucent.
Oh yeah.
Even though it
like
is
a veil.
literally opaque. It's
literally opaque.
There's no light transmitting through the surface of that stone, and yet it to our eyes appears that it is. So I don't know, that word just in the haiku kind of stood out to me. Haiku are interesting. We haven't had a haiku card yet in our first couple episodes.
No, it's jumping right out.
Yeah, and to me, I think this is one of those decks that people are going to love or hate, which is good.
Yeah, haiku are like that.
It's good because it will differentiate for people what is useful and interesting to them. So
Well, that's why there's 4 decks.
the reason that I think I like them, and I think it's perfect for this intersection that we're sort of working on here, is that we had a very intellectual first card, which is talking about keeping your knowledge fresh, learning new things. It's a very intellectual card, and here we have, the heart and the root meeting to form, freshly hewn creations, and it is a very interesting mix between something that is intellectual, right? Being able to plan and process what you're going to make, with something that's very tactile, which is, does it feel right in your hands? Does it have a very groundedness, very rootedness to its semblance as you're making it?
There's also something very interesting to look at in terms of the structure of these 2 cards together. You have earth in both of them. And in the first card, we were looking at that reminder about learning and being aware of how you yourself become a filter and how that can be a detriment or not. And here we have a card about connecting with somebody else. It's almost like the 2 cards are saying, keep learning, be mindful of, an echo chamber. And in fact, why don't you go connect with somebody else? Keep learning and don't necessarily do it by yourself, because I love is not always romantic. I think of it in terms of I connect. Of all the chakras, this is the one that I identify the most as being interconnective between people. And so you've got the root here at the very base, and you've got water near the top. And then right here at the halfway point, you've got the heart. So just in these 2 cards, there's this full spectrum of understanding the way in which you learn.
I like that you said that about the heart. There's actually a new show that I've encouraged you to watch called Has Been Hotel, which is just fun and kind of, it's an adult comedy cartoon. It has that Saturday morning kids show vibe to the energy, which is very interesting, but it's incredibly adult. It's about sinners in hell.
Yes.
And
it's on my list.
And Lucifer's daughter is trying to rehabilitate them so that they can get into heaven. Great premise, excellent casting, but one of the really sinister sort of overlords who is being uncharacteristically helpful and causing us to wonder why he's being so uncharacteristically helpful. But he's canonically aro ace, so he's aromantic and asexual. And in hell, of course, there's a lot of sexuality.
Sure.
Sinners, sex is a big sin to a lot of fundamental organizations. So, of course, everyone in hell is pretty sexual. One of the other characters is a gay porn star. It's
of course.
interesting to see the 2 of them interact. But what I think is fascinating is that there is a whole element of connection and love in its purer form. And so sexuality and sex doesn't have to mean love. And that's what I really like about this character, because this character does care for others, even in his evil mastermind ways. He does care for some of the other characters, and he has relationships with other characters. But if you present him with anything sexual, he just kind of goes, "What? Huh? Like, what is this? I don't understand." And I think that that's an important note to take here. And I think that that's expressed very neatly in like the love of the work that I kind of get from the haiku, the love of the creation, the love of the actual sensation of making a thing. I think that's a very kind of important note to the flavor of what we're creating.
Yes, and I can speak to that process of having to hew words this way, because this requires so much discipline and they're so dense and every syllable literally matters, and it was a learning curve. So there's a lot just in these 2 cards that actually reminds me of the process of even making the book and the decks.
Well, The haiku are interesting, and we kind of looked it up. We were like, where does it come from? And it has such a varied history to it that it's stayed because I think of its resilience as a form. And I was there when you were making them, so I remember those days and the breakthroughs and the moments of cursing the sky and the earth in order to get there. So this is, I think this is actually very representative of the process that you went through to create them. Even you had a heart, you had a love for the creation process, even when it was arduous and difficult and took up, your entire mental ability, and you still didn't make it where you wanted to make it. So we have an interesting sort of message emerging. So we have a reminder to keep learning. And here you were saying we have another reminder to connect. And I still have this very sort of physicalness to this connection. It doesn't have to be sex, right? It doesn't have to be sexual.
Oh, no, that's not the implication here for heart. I love wood, green. No, that for me is down to, that's orange, metal, Svadhisthana, I feel. So it's 2 chakras down.
So we have a very physical connection, though, I think. Working together, creating together, I think even, which is an interesting process. You and I do that a lot. When we worked on your decks together, we kind of had that back and forth creative process.
You're talking about you and I thought you were talking about the cards. Yes, of course. It's like, yes, I understand. Okay.
Well, I mean,
I was still thinking about the cards and the poems. I get so one-track mind.
My cards do have a life of their own. They are very sassy. So yeah, I could completely understand how you could think of that. But no, I was talking about the two of us. So
we've been working together for like a decade by now.
Yeah.
Actually more.
Various projects.
We first started talking in 2012, didn't we?
I think so. So I think we missed our 10-year anniversary.
Yeah. Well, happy 10-year anniversary 2 years late.
two years belated. No, we've been talking for quite some time and working on various projects. And nothing has been easy, but it's been rewarding.
Yes, absolutely. And we've made some really intricate, complex, dense, beautiful work. Everything we've ever made, I'm very proud of.
So I feel like this is very personally talking about us, which is not as general as we like the show to be. We like the show to kind of be a reminder to everyone who's listening about what's happening. So I think we're more here to talk about the example that you and I have kind of set over the last 12 years. So I think we're kind of getting some information about, how that process kind of can go out and help others. You've always challenged me intellectually, which I love and appreciate. We've taught each other new things, and we've been able to create some really beautiful products. And of course, if you buy the decks, hint, hint, wink, wink, you'll see the wonderful, beautiful creations that we have. Like the haiku deck is not only intellectually dense and wonderful, but it's formatted very beautifully with colors that kind of spark your mind as you look at them. And the root chakra here is that you can feel those cards in your hand and you can feel them in the deck, and you've really got that connection between the two. So I think we'll do 2 of my cards, and we'll kind of see. I'm a little bit curious. Usually I have a better sense of where the reading's going at this point, but I'm a little confounded, which is good. That's a good place to be.
Well, with these cards, they're asking you to remain curious.
So me not knowing is fine.
Is fine.
Honestly, though, my deck is not being as talkative as it usually is to me.
Just waiting for the buzz.
Yeah, waiting for the buzz. Trying to get it. Oh, it's way down the list this time. Okay. Let me just check. Usually we only do 3 cards here, but I'm feeling like one more. Okay. Let's see what we got. We'll kind of take these each in turn. So we've got an intersection of the third eye, the root chakra. We've got an intersection of the heart and the root chakra. So a lot of groundedness, but in a very intellectual capacity today. So let's see We've got the Nine of Waves. So this is also known as the wish card. This corresponds to the Nine of Cups in the tarot, and it says, atop the wave, your wish is carried to you.
Say that again. Atop the wave.
Atop the wave, your wish is carried to you. So for me, this is the second chakra. What's interesting is this is my water. So we've had your water to kind of start all this off. And the second chakra for you is where kind of sexual energy lives. And that's same for me in the system that I use. But we have the wish. So this is interesting. It usually means good things are coming. Good vibes are coming. So I guess selfishly, I hope that means that everybody loves the show so much that they buy our decks and buy our books and tell all their friends about it.
Yes.
That'd be my wish in the moment. What do you think? It's an interesting place to have a wish arrive.
Oh, so right in the middle of all this learning and communing and wishing, well, to me, that speaks to the fruition of collaboration, which is what we were just talking about. The wish to create something together and learn together. And that's what we've been doing, just you and I, but it's a reminder, I think, that it can be very enriching for people in general to play together with other people, especially if they're not like you.
Yes. The creative confluence of differences.
So the wish here, atop the wave, your wish is carried to you. Is that your card? Can you say that one more time?
Yep. Atop the wave, your wish is carried to you.
Yeah. And also it makes me think of a ship sailing safely on the high wave, just almost flying along.
No, there's obviously it's waves is the suit that I kind of replaced cups with for my oracle. And so there is definitely swimming, surfing, sailing metaphors within it. And yeah, this is very much, the sea is carrying something toward you. It's a very easy voyage, a very easy journey. Not the kind that breaks a boat in half like apparently it did a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Different kind of wave.
different kind of wave. But
So-
yeah, that's how the wish is presenting itself to me right now, is optimism.
All right, so we've got the reminder to stay curious is kind of what started us out today. We had another reminder to connect with others in order to further that creativity. And it looks like now the next message is to keep a sense of optimism about it. I think what I'm hearing is that if you take this opportunity to go and make that connection, then you will have a positive wish fulfillment. I want you to be careful though. I know some tarot and some oracles like to kind of get into the idea of being able to resonate things into existence. And it's a very privileged thing to be able to say, oh, I'm going to manifest, $1 million. Well, not everybody has access to the resources in order to even come close to getting $1 million. So I never take it in that regard. I don't think that the wish is something that you can simply manifest into being. But I do think it's saying if you're going to try this creative pursuit, if you're going to try this creative partnership of some kind, that you should have optimism that what you are creating will have value and will bring a positive result, maybe monetarily, maybe just passion and creatively, maybe even it just draws the two of you closer together and creates a longer standing dynamic between the two of you.
And something I was just, considering while you're saying all that, sometimes we don't get to choose who we collaborate with. Sometimes we're put into partnerships, whether it be through work or school, or in some way we find ourselves connected to somebody that we may not even know very well, or worse, don't even like. But there is something good that can come from this if you remain optimistic, knowing that the knowledge you bring won't be the same as theirs. that you're working together to make something productive. And even if it isn't joy, it can still be hopeful. You can still hold on to the wish that it will yield something that's beneficial to you both for having done it together. And sometimes after that collaboration, you'll find out that you get along better with them than you assumed.
And that could be the wish in itself. The positive outcome could just simply be a bond of some kind that is going to help you later on be creative.
Well, and creating with people, I've had lots of collaborators, and what I find is that when you create with people, it's melodramatic maybe, but it feels like you're making a baby together. You have to cooperate. You have to both invest in what's happening. I had a dance collaborator for 10 years, and she and I are very, very close. I haven't seen her for a couple of years, but if I did, it'd be like no time had passed, because what we made together was new and beautiful, and I couldn't have done it by myself. The stuff that you and I make together, it's beautiful. So the act of being creative together, whether it's procreative or intellectually creative or artfully creative, building with somebody elevates you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's something very dynamic about that act of co-creation.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what maybe the other influential card is to this. So we've got number 18, an intuition. So this comes from the major arcana. This is the moon card. And it says, in the dark, you only have your intuition for eyes. So this is the crown chakra. So this is the highest level. And it's speaking to that sort of high vibrational energy. And in this case, trusting your intuition to guide you through areas where you can't see with your eyes.
And if we're tying it all together with this previous ongoing conversation, that is very specifically what collaborators can help you do.
It's uncharted water for people, especially when you get creators of different backgrounds that are going to complement each other. There's a level of trust and intuition that you have to kind of follow, not just in the creative process itself. Creation requires intuition, being able to just sort of follow it where it goes, or at least that for me has been the case. Not sort of planning everything. I can't plan. I think you and I were talking about this earlier when you were writing your book, and I was talking about the inability of me to write any of my books. And I just can't outline it and simply start writing it. I have to kind of feel my way through the characters or the plot or things like that. So this is a good example, I think, of, feeling the intuition within yourself to trust, and then in some ways allowing yourself to be blindly guided where you need to go by this collaborator.
And that's part of what learning does. Going back to the first card, mine, it started with water as well. And then you've got this image, riding waves. When you are an explorer, you have to go into these uncharted waters to make discoveries. It can't always be dragons on the periphery.
No.
And I have to go out there. You have to go out and find wonders. And it's sometimes scary, but you've got your collaborator there. And hopefully you're not both crazy people and you can keep your ship balanced.
Well, even sometimes when you're both crazy, you can still create good things, but you may need a third. So just because we're talking about a duality here, just because the cards seem to be talking about the two of us a little bit to us, doesn't mean that when it's talking to you, it doesn't mean 3, 4, 5 people. Groups can be very, very evocative and creative in their work. You're involved in some groups right now that, or I should say one group right now that seems to be creating some wonderful content that hopefully we'll be able to share a little bit about later on as it comes to fruition. But yeah, groups can be impaired too. Creativity doesn't always happen in pairs. And in fact, going back to your baby metaphor, sometimes the best babies are raised by a community versus just a duality, just a dyad.
Yeah, it takes a village to raise a child sometimes.
Exactly. Well, we've got, I think, a very clear message here, but like I said, I was kind of drawn to draw one more card. So I think this will kind of use as our capstone to the reading today. So we've got the 10 of seeds. So the seeds corresponds to the root chakra and also to the suit of pentacles in the tarot. And it says, your seeds given to others will grow for generations.
Read that one again.
Your seeds given to others will grow for generations.
I mean, this entire reading is just about the process of creating a legacy based on collaborative learning and creation. This entire conversation is a reminder that collaboration, even if it's ever frustrating, can really generate material that empowers and enriches everybody. For example, we were talking about sculpture earlier. Michelangelo was, obviously the person who's given credit for saying that he chips away the excess stone and finds the sculpture that's already inside. Okay, and look at how long we're still talking about that. I mean, he planted these seeds that are still sprouting all over the place now, 500 years later.
Yep. And I think it's interesting that we're back to the root chakra again. There's very much a groundedness to everything that we've talked about. And for you, I like the idea that the root chakra for you is identity. For me, it's a little bit more about security and a sense of self, the beginnings of the sense of self. But the identity, I think, in my system comes with the upper chakras from the throat above. But there's still a sense of self to all of this. So I think I'm hearing that in this creative process, you are bringing about yourself and you're spreading yourself. You're spreading the creativity, you're spreading the creation, but that part of that creation is you. And there's a little bit of you that continues with this. So even, I think this, we'll save this for the advanced section, the subscriber section in a second, but there's a very real sense of progeny that I had recently that I'll kind of talk about when we get to that section. So yeah, I think this here is definitely talking about how everything kind of comes to fruition. And this card in the tarot represents a happy family of generational growth, generational wealth. So I think that as a kind of capstone to this, there's a project that you are going to work on. You're going to need others to help you to create it, to birth it. You're needing to remain optimistic about it, even though this process will be hard, as every creative process is. You're going to need to allow yourself to gain intuition and to trust intuition through the creative process. Not everything is going to make logical sense at first, especially if it's something you're unfamiliar with or having to trust somebody else about. You have to give that trust and trust the intuition that you had when you connected with this body of people, whether it's a dyad, a triad, whatever the group size may be. And then I think in a weird way, the wish is also generativity. Something going out into the world, like you said, Michelangelo, seeds that have been planted and trees that have grown for hundreds of years. We're still coming back to the wisdom and the beauty and the generativity of his creations. So you've got a wish for longevity. You've got a wish to create something that lasts for generations. And that really, if you give those seeds to others, if you allow others to partake in this creation, then you will see the growth. You will see the spread of things. And hopefully it won't be like a Dolly, or not a Dolly situation. Who am I thinking of with the ear?
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh, thank you. Where he didn't get to see the results. I think this is saying you're going to get to see some of the results while you're here to see them.
Yeah. Considering the legacy that you're leaving behind is one of creativity and collaboration and cooperation.
Well, I love
inspiration.
I love the idea of seeds too. Not every creative work is a seed, but creative works that are seeds germinate and pollinate and continue onward. So there's this idea of your creations causing creations, which cause creations.
Yeah. And the delay that you'll experience as they germinate and sprout and grow into whatever they're going to be. So it's actually playing with time in a way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that will bring an end to the bulk of the show. We're still doing the free preview for our subscriber only podcast, which is where Jack and I get to talk a little bit about personal takeaways from the readings. So we're going to move to that next. All right. So as I promised, I actually had a very interesting conversation with my dad. So I just got married recently. My partner is non-binary, but is not capable of producing children, doesn't have a womb. So my dad, as soon as he heard the news, because we kind of did it quick, we did it at the courthouse, just we want to have a ceremony in a year or two with family and things, but life circumstances just made it make more sense to get married now. So we did that. We had a very short, quick justice of the peace kind of situation. So I told my dad, and one of his first questions was, "Are you going to adopt?" And I'm 43. My partner is just about to turn 30. It's not an impossible question. It was just interesting that was the first question that kind of came out. And
that two people coming together would need to then foster new life.
Well, he wants the Arnie name to continue, which is my given name. He wants the family name to continue. So it was just interesting that was kind of his first thought, which is, is anything going to continue? My sister's probably not going to have children. So the idea of the things continuing for generations, in some ways, my family is sort of coming to an end with my generation. And it's interesting because, I have things like my mom died last year. And so we had to deal with, death and effects and, her things. She was a little bit of a pack rat, so she just kept things. I still have a storage shed that I have to go through to get rid of more things. And with my dad, at some point, obviously, I'll have to kind of go through that with him. And I know kind of what to do with his stuff, but I got to start to thinking, I don't know what to do with my stuff. Like I have no one to really give it to. What do you do? How do you plan for that? Obviously, there's a very scientific probability that my spouse will outlive me. So obviously, some of my things will go to them. But it's just that sort of global sense of what do you leave behind and how do you leave it to others? So I think that's kind of interesting. What this reading really brought up for me beyond what we talked about, which was the relationship that I have with you, and how I think it was very, clearly kind of playing upon that idea. I came to this podcast, and this is sort of, what is this, number 3 or number 4 of projects that we've worked on?
Oh, project. So this is the 3rd episode of this, but we've done, oh, wow.
How many projects have we actually done together?
Hold on. Well, there's the first one that you approached me about. Then there was actually, wow, more than that. I mean, because we've got the decks, we've got the podcast, which is actually grows out of the decks, but was not part of making the decks. So this is kind of a separate, we're well over half a dozen projects together.
So
well over.
My wish, I think, when that card came up, my wish is that this will be the one. We've and I shouldn't be so stingy. We've had success with our other projects, but we haven't had the breakthrough. So, we connected with people, with beautiful people. We connected with, inspiring creators and artistic people. And
and something else, if I can interject, we're talking about legacy here. And I can say that of all the stuff that I've made with you, there isn't a single project that I would be embarrassed for somebody to find after I'm gone. Everything that I've done as a creative person, I am proud of. And the stuff that I've done with you in particular, we were ahead of the curve on some of these
We
of
were.
these projects. So it's not always quote unquote best to be first,
No,
but it's fun. You know,
it is. We
were going out to where the dragons were on the edge of the map.
we need to be a little bit more like Apple. Hopefully that's what this is, because we need a little bit more like Apple, where they come in when they've got something that they can really dominate with, versus they're not on the cutting edge of everything. And I'm okay with that. I like my shit to work.
But in looking at all of our output and thinking in terms of success, I mean, I'm still working on a novel that isn't ready to be seen, but even the chapters that I've worked on, if I were to not be able to finish them, like right now, and somebody came into my computer and looked in my notes, I have a great book developing.
You do.
These cards are beautiful. This book is beautiful. The class I made that the book grew out of is beautiful. There is not a single bit of this that I'm ashamed of. And if these are my babies, that's fine.
Well, I think that is sort of my takeaway from this is, you know, there's a very real sense of, you know, my family is dying. There is no one that's going to really pick up the name and carry forth. So what survives me? What legacy is there? And I honestly have enjoyed everything that we worked on, but this one's probably the most meaningful to me, because it gets into, you know, sort of the deeper senses of spirituality, of religion, of, you know, places where we could have this conversation. My original podcast was about sex workers and romance writers and porn stars and things. And, you know, you really wouldn't have had the conversation quite like this on that podcast. But here we have a conversation and we can really talk about what does legacy mean and how does this sort of project fit into that legacy. So I found a lot of hope in today's reading for the future. And I mean, I would like to not work till I die. I'd like to be able to support myself with something that I really enjoy, like this. So I'd like to see it take off. You know, I'd like to see people like what we have and sort of support us by purchasing and by, you know, filling.
Part of what would be great about it is to make a living off of something you enjoy that's actually good for people. There's so much content out there that people make a lot of money on. It's not necessarily good. It's not even good for people. It's just, I don't know, ubiquitous. I'm sorry, a lot of what people make is trash. And I think that it's worth taking the time to hone something with real care and real intention, so that the impression it leaves on people reverberates out into something that magnifies creativity and inspiration and kindness. I don't want something to go viral because it's crazy. I want it to go viral because it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, virality.
And I'm not sure I want it to go viral. There's something about it. I've gone viral a few times, as you know, you've witnessed this 3 or 4 times, and every time I've gone viral, it's been traumatizing. I don't even know that I want to go viral. I just want people of good heart to appreciate what I did.
I want a small little corner that's big enough that I don't have to work for someone as I age, and I want it to be dynamic. I want community interaction. I want to see people's lives improve. That's my personal mission, is what I do. Everything that I do, I have a mission to have it impact someone's life in a positive way. And I feel very strongly that the deck and the book that kind of accompanies the deck for me will do that. Will absolutely do that. That my deck will have a positive impact on people's lives when they use it for readings and use it to try to explore their psyche, or try to explore their religion, or try to explore their sexuality, or their thinking.
I want to applaud you a little bit here, because I don't know that we've brought enough attention to it. Your deck, your system, your content, although based on a traditional tarot, is gender neutral. And when those physical bodies as symbols are removed, and you can just look at the concept as it is, in my opinion, that frees up all those ideas to go anywhere. What I have found is that if you say that something is masculine energy or feminine energy, then people automatically assume that half of whatever's on the list isn't for them.
I really
helpful.
hate those two ideas of masculine and feminine.
Yeah. And it's like there's two lists, and if your body happens to be biologically masculine, then everything on this side of the page that's quote unquote feminine isn't for you. Just don't even need to know about it. And by removing human gender and gender energies from the concepts, it allows the ideas to simply be what they are. And that will be liberating for people who've never explored the other half of the page. Well, they always stay in whichever column they're in.
That was one of the purposes of what I did. I really started out or for my spouse. The book and the deck were written for my spouse. My spouse doesn't respond to imagery. It's not really what they sort of respond to when it comes to these readings. They really liked having text, having something kind of firm and grounded to respond to. And then there was just so many gendered layers in the tarot. There just are. I mean, it was created in the it was 18th, 19th. It was created in the 19th century with gender norms that are so far removed from where we are now that they just don't make sense anymore.
No, they don't. And if that's when they were developed, then that would have also been during a very rigid time in terms of morality. If that's when it developed, and I didn't know that, if that's when they developed, then that's the Victorian era.
Yeah, I forget the exact dates, but the Rider-Waite deck, I believe, was an 18 something, close to the turn of the century, if I'm remembering correctly. This tarot history is not my my forte.
Right. But if that's correct, if you're right on that, then those gender norms they were baked into everything, and so we don't live in that world anymore. So it's been very important for somebody to make a deck that is still familiar enough with the tarot to also be accessible enough to not have everything assigned in certain ways. Like when you get the Empress card, or you know.
Yeah, I renamed the Empress the Creator.
Yeah, because why does it need to be a woman? So I think that it's what you've made is important. Because it does allow for that broader understanding of what it means to be a dynamic human being.
It was very intentional, and I'm proud of doing it because I do think that it will help others, and I hope that others take the new names and start to create new tarot based on the names and getting away from some of the gendered ideas. And the Rider-Waite is an amazing deck. It spawned, a whole generation of seeds that have, kept on going, and including, my own seed to create this deck. But there's times for change, and everything kind of needs its own evolution. The seeds don't have to create clones. They can create children, and children are hopefully the best of us and something new for the future.
Yeah, and life evolves. If it doesn't evolve, it dies.
Exactly. I do, just because there are some tarot historians, and I don't want to. The tarot itself has a rich history going back before the Rider-Waite deck, but the way that we kind of have it written down for us now, a lot of it was based on those gender norms of the time period. So the older systems were recast into what we now know as the tarot, the 78 cards.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
So just because I know some of you out there listening will be screaming at me with dates and things. That's fine.
Older than that.
I'm dyslexic. I can't remember dates. It's never going to happen for me.
There was an 8 and a 2, and yes, I don't know.
Yes, there was a 1. I know there was a 1.
There's a 1 somewhere.
I promise. So, yeah. Did you have anything that you wanted to kind of add from your personal take on today's reading?
Oh, well, as you mentioned, I'm working with a group, and we are forming what will hopefully become something like an academy of sorts for liberating men from their masculinity. And I don't mean that in a way to say that we're castrating people. I mean in the way that we're helping men look at the way their masculinity can become toxic and how they can heal and become better people. So we're creating all these different courses, and it'll be something that you can become certified in, because our ultimate goal is to make sure that our content can align with like yoga certifying institutions, so that we have not just certification, but that we're actually what's the word? Accredited. So we want to make sure that we're creating something that people could come and take our courses and get credit towards their yoga certification or therapy certification, or whatever. That we're creating something that can become something that is encouraging men to let go of what gender norms have been. Specifically for men, because there's lots and lots of women's groups out there, and I get it, it's girls' clubs, I get it, but we do need a boys' club. And so that's what we're making. This is a boys' club.
And the nice thing, I think, is you actually have some trans creators as part of your...
Yep. We have trans creators. We have trans students. We have non-binary. So part of what I'm hoping to contribute toward with this group is the dismantling of masculine and feminine energy. I don't like that concept.
I hate it.
I don't think it's fair that creativity is feminine. It's like, are you kidding me with this? What does that mean? Or that anger is masculine. You've never met an angry woman before? I mean, come on. Or like the idea that a woman has to step into her masculinity in order to lead a group. It's like, what? No, just somebody needs to be responsible and take charge. It's like, why are you labeling it this way? That's part of what I want to help dismantle, is this notion that fully half of the human experience is something you have to like practice to appreciate. It's like, it's already there for you.
Well, I think, I don't want to speak too broadly. As I understand it, I think of the discrepancy comes from a misunderstanding of Eastern thought when it comes to something like the yin-yang dynamic. Mm-hmm. And we have it in languages, not in English, but in other languages, there's masculine and feminine sort of declensions of words. And yes, there is definitely some gendered normativity rooted in those things, but I think we kind of lost the point of it a little bit as toxic masculinity kind of grew up. I don't know that it's an American thing, but I think America fuels it a lot because of its puritanical sort of adherence to gender norms that we seem to have found ourselves in today. But yeah,
going back to the first card, keep your sponge wet, where water was touching earth. This is particularly important in men's light work, because I will see content that is absolutely egregiously incorrect. I have seen these men's leaders teaching men how to be men, and they will literally post selfies with themselves standing behind their woman who is barefoot washing dishes. It's like, this is not correct. And even if this person has 500,000 followers, which he does, it doesn't mean that he's successful. It means that he's found a way to generate a lot of money within the system we've already got. He's trying to teach people how to be successful in a matrix that's broken. So what I want to do is displace that idea that you can be taught to be a man, and that you can rather be encouraged to simply be a person, and not feel like you have to put that all over other people.
Embrace energy. It's a flow of energy. Some energies are passive, some energies are active, and you don't have to gender those. You can simply
and even passive and active, those take on gendered qualities too. The terms that I've been experimenting with are productive and potential.
Okay, I like that.
As a gay man, and this is not, responding to you personally, but active and passive, that gets attached to stuff when I was growing up that I don't want to recycle into this new conversation. So even active and passive, active is potential. active is productive, passive is potential. It's not, it doesn't have to be gendered in any way.
No, and there's an unfortunate, especially in the gay community, there's a very unfortunate stigma and stereotypes and just judgments that go into those two types of words, and complete misunderstanding of what gay sex is, honestly.
Oh yeah. You really don't know anything.
But that's not this podcast.
If that's what you think, you don't know anything. So yeah, the cards were speaking very specifically to this project that I'm doing with these guys. And our next event will be in about a month from the time that we're recording this right now. And we've already got 40 men signed up.
That's amazing. That's really amazing.
And part of what's even better, and have to brag a little bit, some of these individual people are in very, very, very high places in the corporate world. And those are the ones I really want to get.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you can change them, their influence radiates out.
Corporate culture, and again, this is not this podcast. I have a lot of thoughts on. I'm writing a book on corporate culture, but it very much is true. There is culture in corporations. There is culture in society, and when you change the culture makers, which is at the top, it trickles down. Yes. Unlike trickle down economics, culture does trickle down from the top.
Well, and that's one reason why I'm really excited, is because we've happened to connect with some of those top level movers and shakers. And for them to be here and to be influenced by what we are doing goes back to what I was saying earlier about wanting what I do to influence people to do good. I don't want to be a parent, but I enjoy being a mentor.
I gotcha. I like that. I like that a lot.
I don't want to be the reason somebody needs therapy.
Heard. I think that's a good place to leave it off. So, Jack, where can we find you and your wonderful things?
Probably it's best to go to Instagram and look for 49 Haiku, 49 HAIKU.
And you can find me at Dean Sage Media on various places. And you can always get access to the deck and books that we keep talking about at showyourdeck.com. That's showyourdeck.com. We'll talk to you guys soon.